All right, hello everyone, and welcome to our lesson for today. This is going to look at remembering and recalling information. So our objectives and standards are to recognize the process to remember and recall memories and information, and to identify how forgetting and improving memory and information work. Take a moment there to look at the standards, please. And our desired result for today, how does the process of remembering and recalling work? So the process of memory allows for the storage of thousands of items. However, sometimes, as we all know, it's hard to, kind of pick out that one piece of information that we're looking for or trying to remember. Organization does help with the process of retrieval, but this organization is not completely yet understood by psychologists, but there are some cues that help with the process of retrieval. So one of them is using recognition. So when people can typically say when something is familiar or to them or not, it's called recognition. So you may not remember someone's name, but if you hear it, you remember it, or you might remember somebody's face if somebody says, remember that guy or that girl. This also helps with us picking out certain instruments and a piece of music so we can recognize what it is exactly, even though we may not see the item. We recognize the sound a trumpet makes, we recognize the sound a drum makes. Also with recognition, we have single items, such as a person's features, may be labeled under different headings so we can recognize them. So for example, if you look at this picture of this woman I put up here, you might say, okay, she has short black hair, she has some makeup on, she has blue eyes, she has earrings. So when you put those things under categories, it may help you recognize someone quicker. You might say, oh yeah, that girl has black hair, she had earrings, she had makeup. You break the person's features down in different categories, so that allows you to recognize them quicker. Another thing that has to do with memories and bringing up memories again is recall. So the ability to recall information is more remarkable than recognition. So it's easy for people to say, oh yeah, I recognize that building, I recognize that name, I recognize that face. But active reconstruction of information is known as recall. So this is searching and finding pieces of information are not the things that are simply involved in recall. So for example, a simple conversation may use a large amount of recall. A person's attitudes, knowledge, and beliefs are also involved in recall. It doesn't work like a video that plays back the exact information. It can be impacted by our environment as well. So memories and influence. So how are our memories influenced by recall? How does the environment influence that? Recall is influenced by reconstructive processes. So this means that memories can be altered or distorted depending on our experiences, interferences from other information, and attitudes. An example of this is confabulation. Confabulation is when a person remembers information that was never stored. So they say they remembered, but never really was there. So it's like when we try to fill in the gaps of a story, that may have some missing information, which then typically results in the information having mistakes sometimes. So a lot of times you may see this with when police ask someone to describe a crime that happened. Sometimes people may not remember, or people remember certain details. One person may say the person had brown hair, another person says they had black hair. So we try to fill in the gaps from different experiences that we have with that event. Schemas. Memories can also be reconstructed in terms of something called schemas. Conceptual frameworks that are used to make sense of the world are known as schemas. Excuse me. It consists of a set of expectations about something that is based off of past experiences. So, for example, recently we had the holidays, so if I say the word Christmas, you may see a bunch of different things that come to your mind. You may picture Santa Claus, you may picture a tree, you may picture being with family. You may hear some of the songs that are, typically associated with Christmas. All those different items make up the schema for Christmas. So it's basically putting things together to make sense of one item. Now, there was an experiment done by Elizabeth Loftus and J.C. Palmer that was conducted with participants about a film of a two-car accident. So in the film, participants were shown different words or different items, and when different items and words were used, like if the person said, oh, they hit the other person, or someone said they smashed into the other person, well, when we hear the words hit, we typically think as smashed. If a car smashes into something, we see that as being more devastating than if somebody just hit something. So people had different descriptions of what happened in the accident by the words they were given. So if a person was told, oh, the other car hit the car in front of them, they might have said, they were going probably about 40 miles an hour. Where if they said, oh, the car smashed into the other car, the person may say, oh, they must have been going a lot faster than 40 miles an hour, because we associate smashed with a higher devastating speed. So eidetic memory is a form of photographic memory that is shared by very few adults. Children seem to use this more frequently instead of reconstructing actively, so they're able to picture visually sharp images or pictures of a page and recall it in detail later, such as from a storybook or something like that. Now, learning and memory. Being in the same physical or emotional state that you were in when encoding or storing information can help you recall it easier. So, example, a lot of psychologists recommend that you study in the same location that you will take a test in. And this is known as state-dependent learning, and it can serve as a cue for recall. So if you typically take a test in your living room or wherever else, or maybe at a library, you should study for it at that location and then take the test there, because being in that same environment may help you recall the information easier. Another cue that helps with memories and recalling memories is something called relearning. And this is a measure of both declarative and procedural memory. So try to repeat a poem or story that you learned as a child. I put Mother Goose up there because we are all pretty familiar with some nursery rhymes. If you can relearn the poem or story with fewer recitations than someone else at the same ability, then you are relearning from your childhood learning. So this is another way to help recall memories. Now, memory is forgotten. People suffer from memory loss every now and then, like forgetting a person's name or a certain word. Information that cannot be retrieved from the long-term memory is called forgotten. And there's three parts to forgetting, or there's three elements that can be included in forgetting information: decay, interference, and repression. Now, decay, up top here. Decay is when input fades away over time. This generally happens to everybody. It typically involves sensory memory or short-term memory. This is when most of your recent memories tend to suffer from decay. So you may have seen a person or met a person, and then the next day you might forget their name. So if you get introduced to someone at a party or at work, and then the next day you kind of forget their name, that's decay. It can possibly be recovered through brain stimulation or hypnosis or meditation. Now, interference is when memories are blocked or erased by a previous or current memory. Two types of this. Proactive interference is an earlier memory blocks new information, and retroactive interference is when later information or new information blocks an earlier memory. For example, if you move to a new house, trying to remember the new address and the phone number, in the beginning, you may have proactive interference where you only remember your old address and your old phone number, but later on it would be retroactive interference because you're remembering your new address, new phone number, and you would maybe slowly forget your old address and old phone number. And the last one here is repression. Now, repression is when you intentionally block a memory because it's frightening or embarrassing. Now, the memory may still exist, but it's not accessible to you or your brain because it is too disturbing. Now, there are some disorders in terms of memory. People can sometimes forget information due to disorders. A common form of forgetting memories is known as amnesia, and this can occur after a blow to the head or the result of brain damage. It can also be caused by drug use or extreme stress. The relative lack of declarative early memories is known as infant amnesia. So you probably don't remember many memories from when you were 2 to 3 years old. Some children may have lasting memories, like maybe, obviously meeting certain family members, like your mom or your dad or things like that. But early childhood memories typically fade away. Some psychologists believe that children do not remember early memories because they lack language skills or language development. Others believe that children do not remember early memories because the hippocampus in the brain, where memories are typically stored sometimes, is not fully developed. Now, there are some strategies to improve memory. Remember, we talked about repetition or maintenance rehearsal can help you remember information for a short period of time, but using elaborative rehearsal may be more efficient. Elaborative rehearsal is connecting new information to information you already know. You're also likely to remember information if you can connect it to some type of emotional experience. And mnemonic devices, that technique can also help with information memorization, such as the rhyme 30 days half September, helps you remember how many days are in each month. Or another example would be every good boy does fine, or I think I mentioned in my last lesson about my very excellent mother to remember the order of the planets, but every good boy does fine might help you remember musical notes on the lines of a staff. So again, just some strategies that you might want to try to help you improve your memory as well. All right, so I hope you have a good rest of your day or evening, and try your best on the questions. Reach out to me if you need help, and I'll talk to you guys soon.